Okay, so try this for long division. We haven't talked about factoring, so I'm not going to discuss that yet. This is really the important part here, where we have all the steps to long division. Now, in class, I said you might want to pause this because I'm going to take most of the time running through the example, and I'll be pointing out what step I'm on for the most part, or you can follow along with me. But I want to go ahead and get into the examples. All right. So we start off with this first problem that says 2x to the fourth plus 3x cubed plus 5x minus 1 divided by x squared minus 2x plus 2. Little mistake there. So the idea is simple. First, we got to set up our problem in the correct form. The first polynomial is always your dividend, and your second polynomial is always your divisor. In fact, you might want to keep this in mind, that the divisor is outside, the dividend is underneath, and the quotient is on top. All right, so let's set that up in the proper order. All right, so x squared now notice, as I pause, notice this right here. There is no x squared. And whenever there isn't an x squared or an x cubed or whatever's missing, if you start off with a 4, you should go 4, 3, 2, 1, but I'm missing the square term. And whenever that happens, we have to put a placeholder like this. You put 0 as the coefficient in whatever variable is missing. And so I'm missing the x squared. And so then I continue writing 5x minus 1. Now that's what step 7 is telling you in those instructions that you just wrote down. Step 7 is telling you to do that right there. Now, here's the process. I take my first term in my divisor and I try to make it be my first term in my dividend by multiplication. And so the question is, what do I multiply x squared by to make it be a 2x to the fourth power? And the answer is 2x squared. Now, how do we get that 2x squared? Now, I understand how to do it in my head. I can figure that out, and some of you guys I'm pretty sure can too. But if you have a hard time, what you do is you go off to the side of your paper, take this 2x to the fourth, and you take x squared, and you divide them. When you divide them, you'll get 2 over 1, which is 2. X to the fourth divided by x squared is simply x squared, because 4 minus 2 is 2. And so that's another way for you to figure that out. But once you figure that out, you place it on the top in your quotient, and then you multiply this times every term in your divisor, placing it under where there are like terms. So 2x to the fourth, 2x squared, times x squared is 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times negative 2x is negative 4x to the third power. 2x squared times 2 is 4x squared. Now, what you want to do, step number 4 says to subtract the whole row. When you subtract the whole row, what really happens is you end up just changing all the signs. So positive becomes negative, and negative becomes positive. All right? So once you do that, what happens is you subtract. Your first term should always cancel out. 3x cubed, 4x cubed is 7x cubed. This is negative 4x squared. And you bring your 5x minus 1 down. And so you repeat the process. What is the process? What do I multiply x squared by so it can be 7x cubed? Now over here earlier I showed you how to do that, so I'm not going to revisit that process. But I multiplied this by 7x in order for it to be 7x cubed. So 7x times x squared is 7x cubed. And 7x times negative 2x is negative 14x squared. And 7x times 2 is 14x. And so what do you do here? You draw your line and change all your signs. And so those two cancel out again. They go to 0 like they're supposed to. And so what I have here is 10x squared minus 9x minus 1. And so I continue the process. What do I multiply x squared by to get 10x squared? And that is a 10. 10 times x squared is 10x squared. 10 times negative 2x is negative 20x. 10 times 2 is 20. Draw your line, change all your signs, and so those cancel out, and you're left with 11x minus 21. And now you stop. And how do I know to stop? You stop whenever the degree of your dividend is less than the degree of your divisor. And all the degree is what is the biggest exponent? The biggest exponent here is a 1, and the biggest exponent here is a 2. So it's less underneath the dividend than the divisor, so you stop. So that's where you stop, but now you need to complete your answer. So the answer is completed by taking your remainder, 11x minus 21, and putting it over your divisor, x squared minus 2x plus 2. I know that's kind of small, but this is your answer. All right, so just to be clear, if you can't see that, that's 2x squared plus 7x plus 10 plus 11x minus 21 over x squared minus 2x plus 2. All right, so that is number 1. Let's keep going with long division. My divisor goes out front. My dividend goes underneath. Notice I didn't have to put 0x or anything because everything is where it needs to be. What do I multiply an x by to make it be x squared? That's simple. It's just x. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Draw your line, change your signs, and you get 9x minus 5. Repeat the process. What do I multiply x by to get 9x? And that is a positive 9. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 2 is negative 18. Draw your line, change your signs, and you get 13. Now, again, I know I can stop, not because I have a number here, but because the degree here is 0, and the degree here is 1. Whenever you don't have a variable, your degree is 0. And so it's less underneath the dividend than it is in the divisor. And so I take 13, and I add it over x minus 2. The reason why I put a plus here is because the number that's left over is positive. If that was a negative 13, I would have put a minus there. So that is your answer. Let's keep working because I want to do as many as I can before my time runs out. Let's try a third example. This one here. Remember, whenever it's written like this, you have to put it in the right form. And just in case you ever get a fraction and it's written like this, you always take the bottom as your divisor and the numerator as your dividend. Okay, so the denominator is your divisor. And I think step number 1 tells you that in your notes. All right, so I'm going to set it up. X minus 3. And I'm taking a survey before I start writing. I got x to the 4th, x cubed, and look, I'm missing an x squared. And so that's okay. I can put it in there. And it's not always that you're going to have an x squared missing. It just turns out to be that this notes will always seem like interrupt me, but it seems like this one always misses a x squared in these notes. Why? I don't know. Plus 1. So 0x squared, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0. And so now it's set up properly. Again, you won't have to do that in all of them. You just have to do it whenever you're missing one of the interior variables there. And so we're going to repeat the process. The process states that you want this to be this through multiplication. So what do I multiply this by to become x to the 4th? And that's x cubed. X cubed times x is x to the 4th. X cubed times negative 3 is negative 3x cubed. You draw your line, change your signs, and this becomes x cubed, or 1x cubed. And then I can just really kind of, well, I'll go ahead and write them all out. What do I multiply x by to make it be an x cubed? Well, that's x squared. And so x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. Draw your line, change your signs, and I get 3x squared plus 3x plus 1. Repeat the process over. X times what gives me 3x squared, and that'll be plus 3x. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 3 is negative 9x. Draw your line, change your signs, and this becomes 12x plus 1. What do I multiply x by to make it be a 12x? And that's simply just a 12. 12 times x is 12x. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. Draw your line, change your signs, and it becomes 37. And so I take my remainder, plus 37 over x minus 3, and that is your solution, your answer there. I'll try to get one more in. Go ahead and set the problem up. X plus 2. Notice that I'm just going straight into how to set the problem up. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm good there. So I don't have to put a 0 in for anything. X cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 2 is what I start off with. So the steps are, what do I multiply x by to be x cubed? And that's x squared. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 2 is 2x squared. Draw your line and change your signs. And so this becomes 0. See how both of those become 0? That happens from time to time. So all I have left is negative x minus 2. All right? So what do I multiply x by to be a negative x? And that's simple. It's negative 1. Yes, sometimes the numbers we put up here will be negative. Negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. However, you got to draw your line and change your signs. And then what does that equal? 0. So when you get a remainder of 0, this is the first one I've worked with, a remainder of 0. Whenever you get a remainder of 0, you stop. You have no other things to do. And you might say, why didn't I put that minus 1 right here? If you skip something and it all goes out to 0 like that, then you can just go ahead and scoot everything else up. So I didn't have to have an x to the first power up here, but you do underneath the dividend if that ever happens. And that is your answer, x squared minus 1. All right, so these are 4 examples of doing long division. Again, remember, the key is understanding these steps, and I hope that I embodied them and showed you, exemplified, I guess is the word, each one of these. And if you got questions about it, I'll see you in the morning.